Bernie Ecclestone talking to me. I'm joined now by Formula Money's Christian Sylt. Christian, I tried to sort of get out of Bernie Ecclestone whether he was in favour of this deal. He says he's looking forward to the US side of it, but is it your understanding that actually he wanted this to happen?
I mean, I think there's no doubt that Formula One has got, you know, an area of development in the United States, and it's quite interesting, really, because obviously that's where Liberty's foothold is. So it will be. I will be interested to see if Liberty can develop F1 in the United States. There's a possibility that Bernie is throwing down the gauntlet there, really, because personally, if you ask me personally, I don't think Liberty will be able to expand Formula One in the United States. It's a much more complex problem than simply getting in an American media company. Much more complex than that.
Right, but in terms of CVC selling to Liberty, is this something he would have wanted to happen? I mean, in other words, did this deal take place with his blessing or with his grudging acceptance?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting one because it's been known since CVC is a private equity firm, as you know, so since they became shareholders back in 2005-06, it was always inevitable that they had to sell at some stage. But I think Bernie, like all of us, would have been happy to remain with the status quo because CVC really have been great supporters of Formula One, built it up. I mean, they bought it for $2 billion. Now you know the figures. You know, it's between 4 and 8 billion, whether you're taking the enterprise value or the equity value. But I do think it's worth pointing out that this deal is not done yet. I mean, it still has to go through regulatory approval with the European Commission and F1's governing body. And personally, I'd be very surprised if it gets the green light ultimately.
Now, let's talk about that, because in many ways we've buried the lead with that point. Why do you think it might fail?
Oh, well, so there are two bodies, really, as I just mentioned, that need to approve it. That's the European Commission, as we know, those lovely regulators in Europe, the lawmakers in Brussels. So them on the one hand, and then you have F1's governing body, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, based in Paris. They're in an interesting position, because they have a 1% stake in Formula One. And the most interesting thing about that is they have this stake. They have to approve it requires their consent for the transaction, the sale, to go ahead. But what I've discovered is that they can only cash in that 1% stake when Formula One is sold. So that puts them in a potential conflict of interest there, really.
Understood. We'll talk more, and we'll see if your prediction turns true. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.